Hey guys, welcome back. We're gonna look at how to look at casts and how to know uh, if there's improvements that you or another player in your raid team could be making to help you getting better and playing their class better. Uh, a lot of the times, like this is really going to be helpful for people who are trying to help someone improve their damage. That you look at them and their logs, and it's like, hey, something clearly isn't right. There's no way at your item level that you and surviving an entire fight that your damage should be this low. There's no way that on a fight that's so good for your particular spec that you are not on the top, whatever number of the damage meters when I look at my details every single pull. And like, maybe you're there sometimes and you're there not sometimes, and helping them find out like, hey, what is happening from pull to pull, where this pull was really good but this pull was not, and just showing you how you can help your players, or you yourself can help yourself find those problems and get better at it. So we're going to look at my friend Nova here. This is his alt druid. And when it comes to getting better at these things, there's a couple things we can do. So one of the things we can do is, we talked about in a previous video about cast to hits and like that ratio. So what is the bang for your buck, so to speak, for every cast to every single hits that we're doing? So one of the things that will help people improve their damage is understanding that, like, okay, when this X number of ads come out, I should be prioritizing this button over this button, which hopefully all of your players know, but potentially they don't, or potentially they are making the wrong decision in the moment. The other thing that we can look at as well, which is going to be really good on a fight like Styx, and we can pull up a log of that as well, is preparing your resources before those ads come out, so that you're ready to start dominating and doing as much damage as you possibly can when those ads come out. So I'm grabbing a random log here. I haven't looked at this yet, but from how good of damage he did, I'm going to go ahead and hope that he's going to do what I think he's going to do, and he is. So what I want you to look at here is, anyone that knows Boomkin knows that when you go from one eclipse to the other, you're trying to go in with as much astral power as possible so you can spam out your Star Surges or your Starfalls in this scenario to do as much damage as possible. And what we see here is, like, ads are coming out at this spot. This is only a 14-second span, but in this 14-second span, he hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 Starfalls out, which means he was ready to go, and probably on top of this had other casts ready to go to help him generate astral power. So let's just look at this. This is a 6-second segment. In this time, he only casts one other spell outside of Starfall, which is great, because that means he's ready to go. If we look at that, roughly the same segment right around here, we can also look at Force of Nature, which he puts out, which for non-Boomkin players on this fight particularly helps put Moonfires out so that he doesn't have to go out and Moonfire more things for himself. We can go and look at, did he put Incarn? Yep, he put Incarn down here. So because of that, that's going to help him generate more astral power in itself right there, along with the Force of Nature. So he's essentially building up all of these resources, and we can go into it and go look at specifically astral power. Now this is on a Boomkin. If I swap to, a Shaman, this is going to change from that to, it is actually Maelstrom. Ellie maybe? Maelstrom now. If I go from this to a Shadow Priest, it's going to chop to Insanity. So regardless, like, this will change depending on what you play and what you don't play. But for the sake of Boomkin, astral power, we can see over the course of the fight how much astral power he's actually accruing, and by what ability he's accruing them at. We can also see how much he's wasted. Very little gets wasted for him, which is great. This is like, that's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to overcap on resources regardless of what you're playing. I really wish there was like a total here so we could see how much raw gain he had as a total without having to do the math in a calculator ourselves, along with how much is wasted. But it is what it is. So essentially, like, that's one way you can get really good at preparing to do damage. But that's only one thing, because you can cast all the things and all the correct things, but if you're not hitting them in the correct order, that's a different problem. So one of the things we can do, and again, I'm a huge believer in casts on logs. Go to casts, and we're going to go to timelines, get away from this tables, go to timelines, and we can actually see throughout the course of the fight how he casted things, and in what order did he cast things, and how does that all work. So we'll have to just go ahead and assume he's doing everything correctly, and we can see exactly how he's opening. And maybe this is more than just trying to help someone get better at what they're playing. Maybe this is you learning how to play something new as well, and you find a log of someone's like, hey, I've recognized this name, I know this guy's really good, he consistently does really well, he must be doing his rotation correctly. You can go and look at his entire timeline of casts and go see what he's doing and just try to mimic it. The reason why I think this is really good, and I'm the kind of person that can learn through watching a YouTube guide or learn through like looking at this and just like actually writing it down on pencil and paper, old school style, that way. But it's important for you to recognize, like, how do you learn best, what's going to be the quickest way for you to learn this so that you can mimic it in your own gameplay as soon as possible. Now, this is obviously just like the cast. This has nothing to do with like getting better mechanically and whatnot, which is probably the bigger problem for the majority of people, is mechanically they're not setting themselves up with good positioning, good whatever. I remember listening to, Liquid Max talking about this years ago, that the majority of really good range DPS players versus the majority of not so good or not that top tier range DPS players really doesn't come down to can they hit their damage rotation correctly, because anyone can play a class enough times to do a perfect damage rotation. The biggest thing it actually comes down to is moving correctly, putting yourself in a good spot so you don't have to move as little as possible, or you're going to have to move, it's guaranteed you're going to have to move, and you had to bait so you couldn't like pre-move to put yourself in a spot where you're not going to have to move, and having things set up so that as you're moving you can be doing the instant cast things in a way so that you are still optimizing your damage even though you're forced to move. So whether that means, hey, I want to go ahead and hit 3 star surges as soon as I go this eclipse, but I'm going to have to move in 2 seconds. So, or like 5 seconds from now, that's a better example. So I'm just going to use 1 so I don't overcap on Astral Power, and then I'm going to cast Wraths. So that way I fill back up my Astral Power bar, and now I do have to move, so now I'm going to hit those Star Surges as I move. That is the best way to gain damage in that time period. Otherwise, you're just stuck. If you dump all your Astral Power, you're stuck casting Moonfire to do damage at that point, which is obviously not what you're trying to do. So that's one little thing, kind of getting off topic. Let's move on to another log. So we're going to look at, and I shortened this log already to be for one of these logs kills time. So we're going to look at Precision, and we're going to look at Ravi here. So again, it's the exact same time, 4:59. Both lusts are done at this point in time, and everyone is still alive. So what do we see? We see 2 more Malefic Raptures. We see 8 more Shadow Bolts. We see 22 less Agonies. We see 2 less Haunts. We see 5 more Withers. We see 2 more Civil Afflictions. We see 1 more Soul Rot, 1 more PS, 1 more Malevolence, 1 more Dark Glare, so on and so forth. So definitely going to find some differences in this. So we're going to go to timelines now, and let's just focus on the opener. Let's see if the openers are the same. So Precision in this log, he did very, very well. I want to say it was like a 99 or 98. Neither has PI as well. So we're going to trust that Precision did something correctly. And right off the bat, we're going to see a difference. We're going to see a Haunt into a Seed versus Ravi is going to go Unstable Affliction into Agony. And I assume he has already cast Haunt because he doesn't cast Haunt until another 14 seconds into the fight, which is about the same time he does. So he more than likely pre-cast Haunt. We're going to give him that benefit of the doubt. into UA, into Agony, into Wither, into 2 more Agonies on the 2 Real Assistants, into a Shadow Bolt, into a Malefic spam. Precision does something incredibly different. He does an Agony into a UA, into 1 Malefic, and then does a Shadow Bolt spam. Using your mouse cursor on this is kind of cancerous, by the way. Would not recommend. Into a Haunt, into a Wither, so on and so forth. Now, I talked about this a little bit before, and they do Dark Glare at about the same time as well. So they're setting up their damage so that they can go into the first set of real ads, not the 2 that spawn at the beginning, but the first set that spawn. Doing this side by side, I really wish looked a lot better. The other thing you can do is go into tables and individually select spells per person to see how are they using it. So they're side by side here. We're gonna get 2 separate casts here, and let's just look at like the first 30 seconds after the first ad spawns. We can go to Malefic Rapture for both. We can see they cast about the same. He gets 3 more Shadow Bolts. He casts 2 Agonies more than he does. Everything else looks about the same. But then if we go to damage done, we're going to see a hit difference of only 2 with 1 less cast. We're going to see his Wither hits more than his does less damage overall. UA, more hits, but still does less damage. Agony does more damage. Soul Rot does more damage. Shadow Bolt does a lot more damage over here. So things look pretty even overall. Only a 25 million difference, which means he's doing this correctly. Now, that means he's doing his CD window correctly. We can also look at this to see how does their damage match up. So if we look right here at this 2.5 minute-ish window, that's when things get drastically different. What damage he does here, Ravi does that damage here, which sets him up for his next spike here, and then a next spike before he gets another spike. So if I was trying to help Ravi in this scenario get better at this fight, I would focus on this part of the fight right here, because this is where things are going south for him. He's getting, we'll call it 3 peaks, and the same time he's getting 2. That doesn't add up. In that time frame, he's casting 6 more Malefics. He's getting 11 more hits, but it's hitting for 36 million less. He's casting more Withers, and it's getting more damage off, which means he's probably taking the time to dot all of the real assistants, and he probably is not. His UA is doing a lot less damage. Why? I need to look into that. And maybe it's just a tier set proccing thing. Who knows? Agony. Casting 22 Agonies, getting a lot more damage. But you have to ask yourself, is it worth it sometimes for that? And if we look at the overall damage difference, there's an 80 million damage difference. That's a 1.2 million DPS difference. So you may look at that and go oh, it's only 80 million more. It's 1.2 million DPS more per second. This is significant. This is something that needs to be looked into. So there's a lot of things you can be nitpicky about in logs when you look at the stuff like this. The whole point of this is just to try to get better. Try to find people who you trust that are obviously super good players and try to mimic their gameplay, mimic how they are doing things to improve your own gameplay. So I hope this was helpful. I know this is a little bit all over the place, and this gets really into the weeds of some things for some players. But if your goal is to try to become a better player, if your goal is to try to hey, I know I'm making mistakes, but I don't know what mistakes I'm making, this is a really good way for you to go find out what mistakes you're making. You can go compare cast to hits, and as we saw in this log, sometimes you're going to get a better cast to hit ratio than someone else, but they're still doing more damage. One of the things that we didn't go and look at is he has 2,000 more intellect. That's a good chunk, but it's not the worst thing in the world. He has a lot more haste than Precision. Precision has a lot more mastery than him and a lot more versatility. We can go back and look at talents. Just a quick skim. Everything looks like it's 1-to-1. Trinkets are a big difference, obviously. So maybe this is a scenario of hey, maybe Robbie's playing this pretty dang well, but we can definitely see from looking at damage done at hey, there's from this spot all the way to the end of the fight, things can definitely be getting better, but it's about trying to figure out what those things were. And before I end this video, I did check to make sure that this was both 5 coin strategy. I did check to make sure no one was getting PI. I did all those things, so this isn't like a different fight. This is literally the same fight for both people, minus when they're lusting, which is probably like they pushed at different timings, which, you know, probably shouldn't matter for this scenario. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.